These documents cannot be accepted here.
Those records are under protected custody.
Gate C18 is temporarily closed. Preserve all records.
At 7:35 on Monday morning, Special Agent Nia Caldwell reached Gate C18 at Belridge International Airport with a black security case locked to her left wrist. The short steel cable allowed her enough movement to walk, sit, and show documents without surrendering control of the case. A federal evidence code ran beneath the handle. 2 tamper seals covered the latches. A Department of Justice authorization had been fixed inside a clear sleeve beside a public verification number printed in large type. It also confirmed that TSA had screened the sealed case under federal protocol before Nia reached the gate. The case held the original forensic image of Meridian Crown's maintenance server, a hardware authentication token, and the only court-certified copy of the device logs linking Jordan Ellis's stolen credentials to another tablet. An encrypted backup existed, but without the token and the matching chain of custody record, it could not establish the device history before the grand jury. The records concerned Jordan, a black aviation technician who had spent 18 days in custody after Meridian Crown accused him of altering an aircraft safety log. Nia checked each seal before joining the priority line. Neither had shifted since she left the federal field office. Her phone vibrated as the gate agent scanned her boarding pass. Claire Rowan had sent one sentence: "Support team is inside the terminal. Get the evidence to Washington. No transfers without a signed custody record." Nia read the message twice, then locked the screen. 8 years earlier, Nia had delayed calling backup because she believed controlling the scene would protect a younger agent. He was injured, and since then she had treated control as a form of protection. The jet bridge smelled of cold metal and fresh coffee. Inside Flight 720, the first-class cabin glowed beneath soft white lights. Near the front galley, Dean Heller cheerfully lifted an oversized camera case into the bin for a white passenger without inspecting it. Nia moved past them and stopped at the second row. A woman in a cream jacket sat firmly in 2A, with her silver handbag occupying 2B. Nia checked her boarding pass, MCA 720, Belridge to Washington, seat 2A. "Excuse me," Nia said. The woman looked up from her phone. Her eyes moved first to Nia's face, then to the steel cable around her wrist, then to the black case hanging beside her leg. "Yes, I believe you're in my seat." Nia turned the boarding pass so the number faced her. 2A. The woman did not reach for her own pass. She gave a small smile, patient in the way people smiled when they expected someone else to correct an embarrassing mistake. "I always sit here. Your boarding pass should show your assigned seat. The staff knows me." The woman placed her phone face down. "Margaret Weller. I fly this route twice a month." Nia waited. Margaret made no effort to move her handbag from 2B. Boarding continued behind them. A suitcase wheel bumped the aisle. Someone farther back sighed. Dean appeared beside Nia with the smooth urgency of a man more concerned with clearing the aisle than understanding why it was blocked. "Is there a problem?" Margaret answered first. "There seems to be some confusion about the seating." Dean looked at Nia. His gaze paused on her dark coat, plain leather tote, flat shoes, and the black case attached to her wrist. "Mom, are you certain you're in the correct cabin?" The question landed softly. That made it worse. Nia had heard versions of it in courthouse elevators, private conference rooms, and hotel lounges where no one asked the white person beside her to explain why they belonged. She kept her expression still and handed Dean the boarding pass. Seat 2A. Dean glanced at it. The movement was so brief that he could not have checked her name, boarding group, or fare class. "We may be able to place you in another first-class seat." "Why would you do that?" Dean returned the pass. "Mrs. Weller has a long-standing seating preference." Nia looked at Margaret's untouched handbag, then back at Dean. "Why doesn't the passenger sitting in the wrong seat move?" Dean's mouth tightened at the word wrong. He did not answer. His attention shifted to the case. "What exactly are you carrying?" "Federal evidence. That appears to be an electronic device. It contains one." Dean stepped half a pace closer but did not touch it. "Unverified electronic items may require separate screening. A few minutes earlier, he had lifted an oversized camera case over his head without asking to see a battery declaration or inspection record. Now he studied Nia's sealed federal case as though caution had arrived with her. She removed the transport authorization from the clear sleeve and held it where he could read the seal. This permits cabin transport under continuous federal custody. The verification number is printed at the bottom. Dean glanced at the federal seal, then threw the authorization onto the galley counter. The papers slid across the stainless steel surface and stopped beside the coffee station. "I can't delay departure for a call to an unknown number." Nia lowered her eyes to the Department of Justice heading, the field office address, and the number beneath the embossed seal. The source is on the document. Margaret shifted in 2A, irritation tightening the skin around her mouth. "She can sit somewhere else," she said, loud enough for the first 3 rows to hear. "I've been a loyal customer for more than 20 years. Dean looked toward the passengers entering behind Nia. Then he looked at the case again. His voice lost its customer service warmth. "If you refuse to cooperate, both you and that case will be removed from the aircraft." Nia felt the cabin grow quieter around her. She did not raise her voice. She did not move aside. She rested one hand over the federal seal and looked directly at Dean Heller. The dispute was no longer about Seat 2A. It had become a test of how far Meridian Crown would go before anyone bothered to verify the truth. Nia kept one hand over the federal seal. "The case contains evidence under continuous federal custody," she said. "It stays with me unless I sign a transfer record." Dean looked at the steel cable around her wrist. "Then remove it and let security examine the case outside the aircraft. They can screen it here. A handheld detector, a visual inspection of the seals, and a call to the field office. All permitted." Dean's expression cooled. "The crew can refuse any item considered a risk." "What makes this case a risk?" He studied the locks, then her face. "Its contents haven't been verified. The verification number is on the counter." Margaret Weller watched from 2A, waiting for the inconvenience to remove itself. Dean picked up the authorization, but called ground services instead of the number printed on it. Dean stepped into the galley and raised the service phone. "First class, passenger claiming federal custody, refusing transfer." He left out the Justice Department seal and his refusal to call the printed number. The request reached Victoria Shaw in an operations office below the concourse. Victoria already knew Nia Caldwell's name. A federal preservation notice served on Meridian Crown's legal department had identified Nia as the evidence custodian without disclosing her travel details. Victoria had been waiting for a flight number. Dean had just supplied it. Victoria did not order him to seize the case. Direct orders created records. "The passenger has an unscreened electronic device," she said. "Handle it under safety procedure." The wording gave Dean permission without giving him a rule. Victoria then called Maya Torres, a baggage security coordinator near Gate C-18. "Prepare a supervised electronics inspection. Bring a secure transfer case." Maya paused. That procedure applied to unapproved devices, not federally authorized evidence. "Does the passenger have transport papers?" "Dean is handling the passenger." "You handle the equipment." Maya arrived carrying a black airline case with the same rounded corners and nearly the same dimensions as Nia's. Nia noticed Maya read the federal authorization longer than Dean had. "Scan the evidence code," Nia said. Maya passed a handheld reader over the label. The screen flashed red, "Federal Custody. Do not transfer." Her thumb stopped above the confirmation key. Dean leaned closer. "Problem?" Maya angled the screen away. "Weak signal." Before clearing the alert, she captured a screenshot and saved it to a private folder. Nia watched the hesitation in Maya's hands. Dean no longer cared about Margaret or Seat 2A. Every question and instruction now pointed toward the case. The seating dispute had given him a reason to label Nia uncooperative. The evidence was the real target. Nia sent Claire Rowan a coded message, "Attempted unauthorized transfer." "Evidence at risk." Claire answered at once, "Hold custody. Team is moving to the gate. Record every instruction and do not release the case." Nia disliked the seconds it would take them to arrive, but she kept the case physically attached and continued documenting Dean's instructions. A text message appeared, "Don't chase every door yourself." The warning struck the habit Claire had been challenging for years. She locked the phone. Dean returned to the aisle. "You have two choices: release the case for inspection outside the aircraft or leave the flight." Nia met his gaze. "I go wherever the evidence goes." Dean nodded toward Maya. "Bring the inspection case closer." Maya bent to move it. A strip of tamper tape already covered one latch. Beneath it sat a printed seal number waiting to be used. The case had not been brought for inspection. Someone had prepared it to replace something else. Dean stepped into the forward galley and lifted the service phone. "We have a non-compliant passenger in first class," he told the captain. "She refuses to release an unidentified electronic device." He did not mention Nia's FBI credentials, the federal evidence seals, or the Department of Justice number he had declined to call. On the jet bridge, Maya Torres stood beside the prepared replacement case, one hand still resting near the scanner that had warned her not to transfer Nia's evidence. 18 days earlier, Jordan Ellis had entered the Claiborne County Detention Center because another warning had been ignored. Jordan was 27 and worked nights on Meridian Crown's line maintenance crew, the team responsible for inspecting aircraft between flights. He liked the hours when the terminal emptied and the noise became mechanical. Cooling fans, service trucks, hydraulic pumps, the click of tools returning to foam-lined cases. Machines did not care who held the wrench. Records did. Over 3 months, Jordan noticed pressure sensor alerts and heat warning faults being closed within minutes. The maintenance system showed completed inspections, yet he had watched aircraft leave the service area before anyone removed the required access panels. The first time he assumed another team had completed the work. The second time he checked. No one had. Jordan submitted an internal safety report with the aircraft number, time, and names of the technicians assigned. By morning, the report showed resolved. No explanation appeared beneath the status. His second report vanished from the employee portal. After the third, his supervisor called him into a windowless office and shut the door. "You're making routine operations sound dangerous," the man said. "You don't understand what one unnecessary delay costs." Jordan sat with his hands folded between his knees. "I understand what an incomplete inspection can cost." The supervisor's expression changed, not into anger but calculation. A week later, a Meridian Crown jet pushed back from the gate and immediately displayed the same heat warning message Jordan had reported. The aircraft returned before reaching the runway. No one was injured, but the delay spread through the schedule, stranded passengers, and drew questions from federal aviation inspectors. The maintenance log showed Jordan's employee code had been used 14 minutes before departure to clear the warning. Jordan was working on the opposite side of the airport at that time. 2 technicians remembered seeing him there. Neither wanted to sign a statement after management interviewed them. A corridor camera should have recorded Jordan entering the second maintenance bay. When his attorney requested the export, the relevant 40-minute segment was missing from Meridian Crown's portal. Although the source server had not yet been forensically examined, Meridian Crown fired him before the formal investigation ended. Airport police arrested him the next morning on a federal complaint prepared with the U.S. Attorney's Office, accusing him of entering false maintenance information and interfering with airline operations. The language in the complaint made him sound reckless, angry, and technically careless. Jordan had spent 6 years earning certifications that could be erased by 3 paragraphs written by people who had never worked beside him. During his first interview, an investigator asked why his login appeared in the system if he had not used it. Jordan stared at the printed log until he remembered something the investigator had overlooked. Employee codes could be copied. The maintenance tablets carried fixed device numbers that remained in the background of every transaction. Jordan knew the identification number of the tablet assigned to his crew because he had reported its damaged screen twice. Before officers collected his papers, he wrote the number on the back of his statement. His attorney found it later and sent it to the FBI. Nia traced the suspicious login to a different tablet, one registered to the administrative office of Victoria Shaw. The encrypted drive in Nia's case contained a preserved copy of the original maintenance record, captured before the device information was removed. Staffing reports showed black technicians were assigned more often to understaffed night crews and named more often in delay-related discipline, while managers who approved aircraft releases rarely appeared in incident summaries. After Jordan reported safety concerns, his evaluations changed from precise to resistant and confrontational. Scheduling, discipline, and selective records had made him the easiest person to blame. Back aboard Flight 720, Dean ended his call and told the cockpit that airport security was on the way. "Passenger in 2A," he said, refusing to surrender an unidentified device. Nia heard every word from the aisle. Dean had taken a federal agent with documented evidence and reduced her to the same category Meridian Crown had used for Jordan, an operational problem. 2 airport security officers arrived at the aircraft door less than 3 minutes after Dean ended his call. The older officer, Raymond Cole, listened while Dean described an unidentified electronic device and a passenger refusing crew instructions. The younger officer, Aaron Walsh, looked past him toward Nia's wrist and noticed the federal seal before Dean finished speaking. "May I see your identification?" Aaron asked. Nia opened her credential case, displayed her FBI badge, then handed over the transport authorization. "The verification number is printed below the seal. The case remains under my control unless I sign a custody transfer." Aaron reached for the wall phone. "We can confirm this." Dean glanced toward the cabin clock. "We're about to lose our departure window. Verification can happen outside without delaying everyone." He said it as though the delay had started with Nia, not with Margaret refusing to leave her assigned seat or Dean refusing a 1-minute call. Raymond asked Nia to step into the jet bridge while they resolved the matter. Nia agreed, but kept the security case attached to her wrist. "I'll cooperate with screening. I will not surrender custody." The moment she crossed the aircraft door, Margaret lifted her handbag from 2B and moved fully into 2A. She settled against the window before the officers had taken 3 steps. A passenger in row 3 raised his phone and began recording. He kept the camera low, but Dean noticed. His shoulders tightened. In the operations center below the concourse, Victoria Shaw watched the gate feed and understood the problem. Removing a federal case directly from an FBI agent would leave too many witnesses and too clean a record. She needed Nia to appear willing. Victoria called the gate supervisor and ordered Flight 720 placed on a temporary security hold. The announcement spread through the cabin within seconds. Passengers checked watches, sighed, and looked toward the jet bridge. Dean allowed their frustration to gather around Nia. Then he offered a compromise. The case would be placed in a screening tray. Nia would remain nearby. Maya would scan the exterior without opening the locks. No custody form would be required because no one would formally take possession. It sounded reasonable. That was what made it useful. Nia studied Dean's face. He had shifted from confrontation to careful courtesy too quickly. Still, she wanted to see who moved once the case left her hand. "The cable stays attached until the case reaches the tray," she said. "No one opens it. No one takes it out of my sight." Maya brought a metal inspection cart to the center of the jet bridge. Nia unlocked the wrist cable but kept her fingers through the loop as she lowered the case into the tray. Maya positioned the scanner over the federal label. At the same moment, another ground employee rolled the airline's black replacement case beside the cart. The 2 cases sat less than a foot apart. Same color, same rounded frame, same recessed handle. Victoria's voice came through Maya's radio. "Tours, check the passenger documentation at the gate desk now." Maya looked at Nia, then at the 2 cases. She hesitated long enough for Dean to notice. "Go," he said. Maya walked toward the terminal entrance. Dean stepped between Nia and the cart, holding up the transport authorization as if asking her to clarify a line near the bottom. Behind him, the ground employee lifted 1 case from the tray and placed it on a low service cart. Nia saw the movement over Dean's shoulder. She moved around him and caught the service cart before it reached the stairwell door. "Stop." The employee froze. Dean came after her. That's the empty inspection case. Nia compared the visible custody barcode on the case beside her with the number on her paperwork. It matched. The case's position in the tray concealed the lower edges of the latch seals and the engraved serial beneath the handle. What she could not see was that the barcode had been duplicated from the earlier scan and printed onto the airline case. 40 feet away, Maya stood at the gate computer with Victoria speaking into her headset. "Change the item status," Victoria said. "Federal custody to restricted electronic transfer." Maya stared at the warning, still visible beneath the new entry field. She knew the change would remove the case from federal handling protections. She also knew refusing a direct order would be recorded under her employee number. Maya entered the code. The routing destination appeared. It was not the secure inspection room. It was the restricted baggage system below the terminal. Her stomach tightened. Victoria had never intended to screen the case. She intended to move it beyond the gate. Maya did not confess. Not yet. Instead, she opened the vehicle assignment and changed its status to battery verification pending. The order delayed the baggage tug for 4 minutes. Then she forwarded her screenshot of the federal custody warning to Meridian Crown's internal legal address. She believed company counsel would preserve it. She did not know Victoria controlled that mailbox through an executive review rule. Back in the jet bridge, Nia returned the case to the tray, threaded the steel cable through its handle, and locked it around her wrist. The weight felt right. The seal number matched. Dean watched her with the confidence of a man who believed the difficult part had passed. Nia ran her thumb along the corner near the left latch. A narrow scratch had marked that spot since the field office. She had noticed it during every seal check that morning. The surface beneath her thumb was smooth. She looked down at the case now attached to her wrist. It was not the one she had brought onto the aircraft. Nia did not open the case. The urge came fast. Break the seal. Prove the drive was gone. Stop everyone from pretending this was still a misunderstanding. But the moment she touched the latch, Meridian Crown could say she had compromised the evidence herself. So she left the false case locked to her wrist and raised her phone. "Preserve every camera on this jet bridge from 7:25 forward," she said. Dean Heller stepped closer. "You don't have authority to seize airline systems based on a scratch." Nia turned the case over and lifted the handle. Beneath it, a serial number had been engraved into the shell. The federal transport record listed a different number. The outer label matched because someone had moved it. The case did not. "This belongs to Meridian Crown Security," Nia said. "Mine is gone." Dean looked at the number without bending to read it. "Or you brought the wrong case." Claire Rowan entered the gate area with 4 federal agents before Nia answered. Passengers stopped pretending not to watch. Phones rose. Claire compared the numbers, then faced Dean. "No one leaves this gate. No footage is deleted. No baggage record is altered." Dean's face tightened. "You're disrupting an active flight over an allegation." Claire pointed to the case. "The allegation is engraved under the handle." She ordered Meridian Crown to produce a list of every employee who had scanned or changed the item's status during the previous 15 minutes. The first name was Maya Torres. Dean spoke before Maya could. She handled the transfer. If something was entered incorrectly, that was her decision. Maya looked at him. The speed of the accusation told her everything. He had already placed her outside the circle. Her radio vibrated. Victoria Shaw's name appeared on the private channel. Maya stepped aside. "Tell them Caldwell agreed to the transfer," Victoria said. She placed the case in the tray voluntarily. Maya looked through the aircraft door. The passenger in row 3 was still recording. His video showed Nia opening only the wrist cuff while the original cable remained attached to the case. It showed Dean blocking her view and a ground employee moving one case away. Maya could repeat Victoria's version and let the record close around her. Her employee number sat beside the code change. Claire approached. "Miss Torres, where is the federal case?" Maya's mouth went dry. Dean watched from one side, the camera from the other. "The real case went into the baggage system," she said. Dean stared at her. Victoria went silent. Claire asked, "Which route?" Maya opened her tablet. The transfer history had changed again. Her original entry remained, but the destination field was blank. Someone rerouted it after my scan. I can't see the new location. Who can? Maya hesitated. Luis Ortega, baggage control. He keeps vehicle logs outside the main routing screen. Claire sent 2 agents with Maya to the control room below the concourse. Luis Ortega sat before a wall of monitors showing belts, service roads, and loading zones. He was 61 with gray at his temples and the stillness of a man who had learned not to react too quickly at work. When Claire asked for independent transfer records, he unlocked a private folder. Hundreds of photographs appeared: baggage tags, tug numbers, timestamps, scanner IDs. I reported restricted transfer codes being changed after the first scan, he said. The complaint went to Victoria Shaw's office. 2 weeks later, I lost access to the audit screen. Why didn't you go outside the company? Claire asked. Luis looked at the photographs. I had 11 months left before full retirement. I told myself keeping copies was enough. Enough for what? He rubbed one thumb along the keyboard. I don't know. Luis traced the case through 3 scans. It had left the terminal on tug B-14. The system showed its destination as Flight 720. Then he opened a ramp camera. B-14 passed the turn for Gate C-18 and continued south. Luis enlarged the image. It's heading to international cargo, he said. Nia looked at the timestamp. The case had been moving for 6 minutes. Luis opened the work assignment for tug B-14 and read the route twice. The vehicle had been scheduled to serve 2 aircraft that morning: Meridian Crown Flight 720 to Washington and Cargo Flight 460 to Toronto. The second flight was due to depart in less than 25 minutes. If Nia's case entered the cargo hold, recovering it would become an international matter before anyone finished the paperwork. Lock down the cargo area, Nia said. Claire shook her head. Our current order covers the gate, the evidence transfer, and the employees directly involved. It does not authorize us to stop every cargo operation at Belridge. They are moving federal evidence out of the country. Then we identify the exact tug, container, and receiving employee. If we shut everything down now, Victoria will know what we can see. She could move the case again before the judge expands the order. Nia's jaw tightened. But she stayed in place. Claire did not soften her voice. Precision is not hesitation. Luis moved between screens, opening photographs, time logs, scanner records, and closed internal complaints. He did not possess one document that explained the entire scheme. He had fragments: a luggage tag photographed before its destination changed, a tug number recorded on a handwritten shift sheet, a restricted transfer code created after the original scan, a list of handheld devices authorized to modify routes. When he placed the records side by side, one device appeared repeatedly. It was an executive tablet registered to Victoria Shaw's office. Some of the altered transfers involved technical incident reports. Others involved laptops taken from terminated employees, equipment held during internal investigations, and property marked for review by federal regulators. The pattern did not prove that every transfer concealed a crime. It did show that Victoria's office had repeatedly bypassed normal custody controls whenever an item threatened to become inconvenient. Claire sent the magistrate a supplemental affidavit already prepared for an attempted removal of the evidence, and requested an emergency telephonic amendment. While she requested an expanded search order, Nia returned to Gate C-18. Dean stood near the aircraft door, speaking quietly with the captain. His phone lit in his hand. Nia saw Victoria's name before he turned the screen away. The message was short: keep Caldwell away from the aircraft. Promotion review remains on schedule. Dean deleted it from the visible thread. He looked up and found Nia watching him. For the first time that morning, uncertainty crossed his face. Not guilt yet. The recognition that Victoria had placed her promise in writing. What did she offer you? Nia asked. Dean slid the phone into his pocket. I am doing my job. Nia did not argue. Then let the record show what that job was. Dean glanced toward the cabin. Dean seemed to understand that the story was no longer his to control. In the baggage office, Maya reopened a secondary routing terminal that Victoria had not yet disabled. The display showed only equipment assignments, but one entry carried the federal case's altered tracking number. It had been attached to cargo container C-36. The sealing time was 8:12. Maya looked at the internal messaging icon and remembered where her last warning had gone. She did not send another. She removed her employee badge, turned it over, and wrote C-36 in black ink. Then she crossed the gate area and placed the badge in Claire's hand. "This is the container," she said. "Do not put it into the company system." A camera above the gate followed her movement. Seconds later, Maya's terminal access vanished. Her radio displayed a suspension notice issued by Victoria Shaw. Maya read it without speaking. Her face lost color, but she did not ask for the badge back. Claire's phone rang. The magistrate had orally approved the temporary expansion to C-36, Tug B-14, and the Meridian Crown employees controlling their movement, with written confirmation to follow. Luis checked the ramp camera. The container has left the warehouse. The clock above the control desk showed 8:08. On another screen, C-36 moved behind a baggage truck toward cargo 460. 4 minutes remained before workers sealed it beside the aircraft. Meridian Crown wanted Flight 720 away from Gate C-18 before the expanding federal order reached the rest of the airport. The captain had been told the delay involved a baggage disagreement and an uncooperative passenger, not a stolen evidence case linked to falsified maintenance records. Dean stood at the aircraft door and asked the crew to begin final closure. Inside the cabin, passengers returned their phones to chargers and checked the time with growing impatience. Margaret Weller remained in seat 2A, looking through the window as if the seat had become hers simply because no one had yet forced her to leave it. Nia stood in the jet bridge beside Claire, the false case still secured to her wrist. "They cannot push back," she said. "This aircraft is now part of the evidence trail." Claire looked through the open door at the crowded cabin. "We hold it only as long as necessary. The people on that plane did not choose to enter this investigation." Nia turned toward the service stairs. Somewhere beyond the terminal walls, container C-36 was moving toward cargo 460. "I'm going to the ramp." Claire caught her arm before she reached the door. "You don't know the service route, the container lanes, or which security doors will open. Maya does." Nia looked at Maya. The baggage coordinator stood near the gate desk with her suspended badge no longer active, her hands trembling despite the effort she made to keep them still. One decision had cost her access, possibly her job, and the medical coverage her household depended on. Nia's first instinct was to tell her to remain behind. It came from the same place as every order she had given younger agents after the operation 8 years earlier. She had called it protection because that word felt cleaner than fear. She stopped herself. "Can you lead the team to the cargo ramp?" Maya swallowed. "Yes. Do you understand what happens if the information you gave us is wrong?" "Yes." Maya did not look away. Nia removed her hand from the service door handle. "Then lead them." 2 federal agents followed Maya down the employee corridor, while Nia stayed with Claire to secure Flight 720 and preserve the gate records. The choice felt wrong for several seconds. That was how Nia knew it mattered. Maya moved quickly through the restricted hallways, guiding the agents past baggage belts, maintenance rooms, and a security checkpoint, where her disabled badge produced a red light. One agent presented the expanded federal order, and the guard opened the door manually. Luis Ortega tracked them from baggage control through a radio channel Claire had ordered preserved. On his monitor, C-36 appeared to stop beside staging lane 7. "It's not there," Maya said as soon as the team reached the lane. The painted space was empty. Luis compared the new location with the scan interval. A container that size could not have crossed the distance shown in 22 seconds. Victoria had used her executive access to change the displayed location without changing the vehicle's physical scan history. Luis opened the ramp cameras one by one. "The screen is showing where they want us to search," he said. "The actual tractor passed fuel station 290 seconds ago. It's heading toward cargo gate 4. Maya turned before he finished. The agents followed her across the marked service path. At gate C-18, Claire informed the captain that Flight 720 could not depart until the federal evidence transfer had been resolved. Dean objected that the airline was losing its departure slot. Claire asked him to preserve his messages with Victoria. Dean said nothing. Near Cargo Gate 4, Victoria Shaw stepped from a black operations vehicle and placed herself between the federal team and the approaching container. She wore her airport credentials outside her coat and held a customs packet in one hand. "That container has been accepted for an international flight," she said. "You have no authority to open it." Maya slowed, but the agents did not. Claire heard the exchange through the radio and requested the customs record. A federal clerk sent the current document to her tablet. The final customs signature field was empty. The security seal had been attached on one side, but had not been locked through the second bracket. C-36 remained under Meridian Crown's control. "Preserve the container under the amended order," Claire said. "Do not allow any additional handling." Victoria raised her voice over the engine noise. "You are delaying international cargo based on an employee who has already admitted violating procedure." Maya's expression tightened. She did not defend herself. "The container is still moving," she told the agents. Tug B-14 was less than 100 yards from Cargo 460 when the federal vehicle crossed the lane and forced it to stop. The driver removed his hands from the controls. Under camera and witness documentation, the agents completed the seal record and opened C-36. Inside were rows of electronic shipments, equipment bags, and reinforced freight boxes stacked beneath cargo netting. Maya checked the loading list. Nia's federal case was supposed to be secured in the forward left position. That space held 2 sealed computer cartons. The evidence case was not there. Maya stood at the open container with the loading photograph enlarged on her tablet. The forward left space was wrong, but something else bothered her. She moved the image back to the moment before C-36 left the warehouse. Beneath 2 Navy crew bags sat a narrow carton marked crew equipment. It did not appear anywhere on the official manifest. "That package," she said. "It wasn't listed." Luis entered the label number from baggage control. The system returned a creation time of 7:58 and the identification code of the device that produced it. He read the result quietly. Executive tablet. Victoria Shaw's office. One of the agents removed the crew bags, while another kept the camera fixed on the container. The unlisted carton had been buried beneath 2 crew bags and assigned to Meridian Crown's Toronto Security Office, a unit that reported directly to Victoria. Claire authorized the opening under the amended order. Inside was Nia's federal case. The original seals remained intact across both latches. The original steel cable was still attached to the handle, and the opened wrist cuff had been folded beneath the case. No one appeared to have opened the case itself. Nia crouched beside it without touching anything. Relief came first, brief and physical, followed by anger so controlled it felt almost cold. The chain of custody had been compromised, but the evidence might still be usable if the seals, timestamps, and witnesses established that the interior had remained secure. Victoria stood several yards away between 2 operations managers. She looked at the case as though its recovery were an administrative inconvenience. "I was preventing an unscreened object from entering a passenger cabin," she said. Claire held up the transport authorization. It was federally approved. The cabin supervisor raised a safety concern. The system displayed federal custody, do not transfer. The routing code was changed 3 times. The case was placed inside an unlisted package and directed toward an international cargo flight. Your tablet created the final label. You filed no safety report, contacted no federal office, and prepared no custody receipt. Victoria turned toward Maya. She entered the transfer. Maya's face tightened, but she did not step back. "I entered the first change," she said. "I followed your order. I also saw the warning. I knew what it meant." Her admission did not clear her. That was why it mattered. Luis spoke next. He acknowledged that he had preserved altered tags and routing logs for months without reporting them outside Meridian Crown. He had told himself he was waiting for proof strong enough to survive retaliation. Standing beside the container, He understood that waiting had also given the system more time to operate. At Gate C-18, federal agents recovered Dean's deleted message from the airline server. The promise of a promotion remained attached to Victoria's instruction to keep Nia away from the aircraft. Dean was escorted to an interview room. The gate manager returned Margaret to her assigned seat 2C, and Flight 720 departed without Nia while she remained with the recovered evidence. The recovered case was transferred to a federal examination suite inside the airport. Every seal was photographed, measured, and compared with the departure record. Only after 2 evidence technicians signed the new custody form did Nia unlock it. The encrypted drive was intact. Its contents did not offer one perfect recording that explained the entire scheme. They offered something harder to dismiss. The original maintenance log showed Jordan Ellis's employee code had been used from a tablet not assigned to his shift. A restored fragment from the maintenance corridor's source server showed a mid-level manager carrying Victoria's tablet after Jordan had left the airport. Internal emails instructed supervisors to close selected technical alerts until Meridian Crown's acquisition agreement was signed. Dates, device numbers, camera images, routing changes, and witness statements fit together into a sequence no single person could explain away. Victoria continued to insist that she had never intended to endanger passengers. Meridian Crown had suffered several losing quarters, she said. The acquisition could protect thousands of jobs. She had planned to delay the maintenance disclosures only long enough to complete the deal. Jordan's repeated reports threatened that plan, so someone used his credentials, and the employee who raised the warning became the employee blamed for it. After that, each concealment required another. Nia listened without interrupting. When Victoria finished, Nia said, "You did not protect those jobs. You chose who would lose his so you could keep yours." Victoria looked toward the cargo aircraft, its loading lights still flashing in the morning haze. She offered no answer. Claire stepped forward and informed her that she was under arrest for obstructing a federal investigation, falsifying electronic records, and interfering with evidence. Nia did not watch Victoria being escorted away. She remained beside the recovered case while a federal courier signed the next custody record for transport to Washington. The seal numbers matched. For the first time that morning, the evidence was moving under a chain no one at Meridian Crown controlled. The recovered data reached Jordan Ellis's attorney and the federal prosecutor handling the aviation case before noon. After reviewing the device logs, the prosecutor joined an emergency motion to dismiss the maintenance record charge, and the court granted it late that afternoon. The order did not mention the 18 nights he had spent under fluorescent lights, or the way his name entered a criminal complaint before anyone checked the device number he had written down. Jordan left the Claiborne County Detention Center after sunset. No cameras waited outside. Denise Ellis stood near the curb with his attorney, holding Jordan's coat. He emerged carrying a clear property bag containing his wallet, shoelaces, and a Meridian Crown employee badge with one corner cut away. Nia waited beside a government sedan and did not step forward. Jordan saw her anyway. "They found the device?" "They did. It shows I didn't use that code. It shows your code was used from another tablet after you left the airport." Jordan looked at the damaged badge. "I said that the first day." "I know." He did not thank her, and Nia did not expect him to. Gratitude would have made the moment cleaner than it was. Jordan asked how an airline could fire him, give his name to airport police, and keep operating while he sat in custody waiting for someone to examine the same system used against him. Nia looked toward the detention doors. Too many people saw one part of the truth and decided their part wasn't important enough. Freedom did not return what the accusation had taken. Jordan's authorization to enter secured maintenance areas remained suspended. Meridian Crown had not reimbursed his advanced training tuition. He had lost his apartment after falling behind on rent. 2 former co-workers contacted his attorney only after learning the FBI had recovered the original logs. Their statements helped, but their timing stayed with him. The next morning, Jordan began the process of restoring his aviation credentials. His attorney warned that it could take months. Jordan completed the first forms before leaving. He refused to let the people who framed him decide that he no longer belonged near an aircraft. Maya Torres gave a complete statement. She admitted changing 3 restricted transfer codes under Victoria Shaw's instructions. She had not known what the earlier packages contained, but she had recognized the orders were abnormal and remained silent because she feared losing the health coverage that paid for her spouse's treatment. Her cooperation was recorded. It did not erase the 3 times she obeyed. Luis Ortega surrendered every photograph, handwritten log, and archived complaint. He told Claire Rowan that preserving the records had once felt like courage. Claire closed the evidence folder. Keeping proof safe is not the same as taking it somewhere that can protect people. Luis lowered his eyes. I understand that now. Dean Heller's interview lasted nearly 4 hours. He admitted Nia's papers had been sufficient for immediate verification. When she asked why he refused to call, he spoke about schedule pressure, Margaret Weller's status, and the unusual appearance of the case. Nia asked, "What looked wrong?" Dean stopped. Every answer led back to the same private picture of who belonged in first class, who looked official, and whose explanation deserved belief. At last he admitted Victoria's promise of a promotion gave him a reason to keep delaying after he knew Nia was telling the truth. Jordan's attorney later handed him a copy of his old employee badge. Jordan did not frame it or place it in a drawer. He slid it into his professional grievance file beside the dismissal order, the device log, and his application to restore his credentials. The badge was no longer proof of where he had worked. It had become evidence of what had been taken and what he intended to reclaim. The investigation lasted 6 months, long enough for the story to leave the airport headlines and settle into court filings, personnel hearings, and rooms where people had to answer for decisions they once called routine. Victoria Shaw was indicted for obstructing justice, falsifying electronic records, and interfering with federal evidence. 2 maintenance managers were charged with using another employee's credentials to alter safety logs. Dean Heller lost his supervisory position and remained under investigation for false statements in the report he filed after Flight 720. Maya Torres was suspended, then signed a cooperation agreement, and accepted a position with no authority to change security routing codes. Luis Ortega testified before the grand jury and left Meridian Crown shortly afterward, accepting reduced retirement benefits rather than waiting out the remaining months. Under outside supervision, Meridian Crown changed 3 systems that had allowed the case to happen. A maintenance code could no longer be used unless the login came from a device assigned to the correct employee and shift. Federal status baggage and evidence could not be rerouted without 2 independent approvals. Employees who reported misconduct would keep their health coverage while an internal investigation remained open. Each reform closed a door Victoria had used. Jordan Ellis spent months rebuilding what a dismissal order could not restore. His secure area certification returned first. His advanced maintenance credential followed after a review board compared the original device logs with Meridian Crown's altered records. He did not apply for his old job. An independent maintenance company outside Belridge hired him for line inspection work. On his first morning, a pressure alert appeared during a pre-departure check. The aircraft was already behind schedule. The operations manager asked Jordan how long he needed. Jordan examined the readings. 20 more minutes. The manager checked the clock. Then, the flight is 20 minutes late. He walked away to notify dispatch. Jordan remained beside the open panel, surprised by how ordinary the answer sounded. No one accused him of creating a problem by noticing one. No one asked him to change the record. A correct decision had been made before it had to become a brave one. 7 months after Flight 720, Nia Caldwell arrived at another gate with 2 younger agents. They were traveling to serve an arrest warrant after landing. The gate employee examined all 3 FBI credentials, called the public field office number, verified each name, and returned the documents. The process took about a minute. Nia thanked her and moved aside. Aaron Blake, the newest agent on the team, had been assigned to brief the captain. He had rehearsed the safety plan twice during the drive to the airport, then gone quiet at the gate. Nia recognized the tension in his jaw. Years earlier, she would have stepped in before he had a chance to make a mistake. She would have called it efficiency. The captain came out of the jet bridge, glanced past Aaron, and addressed Nia. "Agent Caldwell, what do you need from my crew?" Nia felt the answer rise automatically. She knew the warrant conditions, the seating plan, the timing, and every possible complication. Aaron knew them too. She turned toward him. "Special Agent Blake is leading the coordination." The captain looked at Aaron for the first time. Aaron introduced himself, explained the warrant, and described where the team would sit and how they would avoid disrupting passengers. His first sentence came too quickly. The second was steadier. By the end, the captain was asking him questions directly. Nia stood close enough to help and said nothing Aaron could say for himself. She was not abandoning him. She was leaving room for him to carry the responsibility he had been trained to hold. The flight pushed back several minutes behind schedule. No one had been removed from an assigned seat. No bag had been separated from its owner. No employee had been forced to choose between telling the truth and keeping medical coverage. The cabin settled into the familiar quiet before takeoff. That quiet was not luck. It existed because the rules had changed after too many people had used the old ones to decide whose documents counted, whose warning mattered, and who deserved to be believed. Which moment in Nia and Jordan's story stayed with you most? Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and subscribe if you want more stories like this.